Hi guys, welcome to the Stacey Sheppard. I'm here today with Cara and Halla, and we are in Cotton Studio in Bristol, and we're here to discuss colour. So first of all, I'd like to just give you a little brief overview of how we came to know each other. We've known each other for about, I reckon,
2011,
so it's about 8-9 years now.
Yeah.
And the way it all came about was I read an article, I think it was The Independent, all about grey and how grey was going to be the next big colour trend. And I was a bit incredulous and I thought, grey? And it was quite derogatory in the article talking about grey. So I thought, I can't judge myself if this is going to be a good thing for us going for grey, so I need to find an expert. So I googled and I came across Karen, sent her a message and asked her if she'd like to talk to me all about grey and this imminent trend that we were going to experience. And so we did an interview, which was received very, very well. We then turned it into a series of interviews all about colour psychology, where we explored different colours every quarter. So yeah, that was about 10 years ago. And now, excitingly, Karen has done a book. How did the book come about?
Well, there's the old saying that, there's a book in everyone. Because you want to write a book.
I have books in me.
You have many books bursting to come out. And that bursting to come out, I knew I had something to say. Yeah, other than just being a chatterbox, right? But I knew I had something to say, and I'd written quite a lot of blogs. I mean, obviously I've written blog posts for you. I've done a lot of guest blog posts. Get up and do speaking at events, teaching. I've been running very successful courses for design professionals for quite a few years now, and I just knew that I really wanted to share colour, and because people were just saying I'm scared of colour, and I'm thinking, how can you be scared of something that is so innately a part of us? When you think about nature and the true seasons, not how we've manipulated them, but if we think of all the colours in nature, which is like every colour except brilliant white, how can we be scared of something that's so innately us? And so the more I was exploring, the more I was writing, the more I got heckled in talks. And finding out when people were saying, oh, what a load of rubbish, and what's wrong with white, and why can't we just all use white, and it was becoming clearer and clearer to me is that we were scared of the emotion, but we were also then scared of ourselves, because to show up authentically and to show up as our true selves, that's a really big thing. Yeah. And when we're a lot of children are taught, oh no, you don't like that, you don't like that colour, you like this colour. So I hear a lot of adults making comments on children's colour choices.
I found that actually. My oldest, she's nearly 6 now, her favourite colour is navy blue, but that's because my favourite colour is navy blue. And if I was going to buy them some new cups the other day, and I said, oh, which colour would you like? Here's the selection. And she said to me, which colour do you like, Mummy? And I was like, no, this is about you. What colour do you like? But she's almost just stealing my colour identity. Yeah. So I'm trying to convince her to discover her own. Right. It's difficult.
Yeah. And sometimes too, especially little girls, they want to be just like their mum as well. So they want to be. Does your little girl like dressing up and like want to be grown up?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's probably, and so you're her role model. So you're her world. So that's, and so explaining to her that she could pick her own colour is something.
She doesn't want to.
No, she doesn't want to, because she might just be going through, I want to be just like Mummy phase. She will grow out of that. She will grow out of that, because she'll then be doing everything opposite. Everything opposite. And quite often we're scared of colour because as children, instead of being able to explore all that, at some stage they do explore their own colour choices and what they love, because, give a whole pot of colours in front of children and they just love it, they just drink it in. At some point, a lot of us in our lives, we get told our colour choices are wrong, or no, you don't like that, or we default to somebody else, and so therefore we don't trust our own instincts anymore, our own preferences, and we will look to magazines, we will look to colour trends, we will look to what else is going out there in the world, or even what our neighbours have, and we will want to be like them, and that's because there is a human need to belong. There's a human need to fit in, and there's a human need to be accepted.
Yeah.
And so we do that also with our colour choices, which is a bit of a shame.
I definitely found that. I have been petrified of colour, and I don't think it was because I was scared to show up as my authentic self. I didn't know how to match the two. I didn't know how to show my authentic self in colour, and it put me off for years making any commitments to colour. And it didn't help that I was renting, so I didn't really have much choice. But I really, really struggled. And like you say, people look to their surroundings and to magazines and to blogs. And doing what I do, I find it so hard. I find it so hard to make my own choices because I feel massively influenced by everybody else. I've never been a person to jump on trends. I always like to do my own thing and go my own way. But when you're bombarded day in and day out, seeing all these influencers, other bloggers, magazines telling you this is the new colour, you need to buy into Neo Mint or whatever it is right now. It gets in. It gets in, and then you start, even if you think, I don't like Neo Mint, I'm not decorating with that, give it a few months and you'll start liking it. You just can't help it, it just filters in. And I just became almost, I don't know, paralysed by indecision. And then I knew I liked certain colours, but then I was thinking, but will I go off it because it's a trend? Will I like something else next month? So I best not do anything. And that, it made me quite sad because I knew I wasn't living in an environment that was for me or designed for our family, but I didn't know what to do about that until I met you. Honestly, my fear of colour ended when we started to do those blog posts.
Oh, well, that's amazing.
It really did.
That's
it really
amazing.
did. And now I'm still not massively confident with it, but I know that as long as I choose what makes me feel good, then that's okay. That's a good start.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I don't need to live in a white box or a Magnolia box.
And a lot of people, I think, when they are scared of colour, and we last decade or so ago, we went through that massive white phase, and that's, I think, people reverted to, I don't know what to do, so I'll make almost a no colour choice, as in picking white. And that's also shutting out any emotional noise, because if colour is emotion, we have an emotional reaction response. White is virtually, I can't say this word properly, but anaesthetize ourselves virtually of emotion by living in virtually all white.
Okay. Yeah. So this wasn't going to be my next question, but talking about trends and about the grey, was that a reaction to something? Because it wasn't like you said, it wasn't a colour of the year, it wasn't that it had been trend forecasted, it just came out, and then before you knew it, it was everywhere for years. So was that something to do with the society or culture or something that was going on here at the time? Or?
I think we just come out of that whole really white, that black and white minimalist phase. And it was a slow burner, the grey, but when it took off, it just went everywhere. But if you think about in the 90s and then the noughties, they call it, and then when the teens started, the political uncertainty and the unrest, and when we, as again, talk about the psychology of human beings, we need to feel safe. So the whole acceptance and the fitting in, that comes underneath food and shelter and the needing to feel safe. And when we feel safe, we all have jobs, we have stability, we know that we have a job, because everyone, there was a time when everyone had a job for life. They would stay in the job and they'd be there for 30 years or 40 years or whatever. And when you feel safe and stable and secure, and you've got a house that you're going to live in, and all of those security and stability is there, then you start to become a little bit more adventurous, and that's when people go out, especially this is really what happened, I think, in the 70s, is because there was a lot of that stability. They could experiment more with pattern, they could experiment more with colour. So that's why the big swirly wallpapers and the swirly carpet and the loads and loads of colour is because if you feel confident and safe on the inside, and you know the world is stable and your environment is stable, then you can experiment a lot more.
Yeah.
But as soon as you take any of those really important fundamental things away, and you don't know how long you've got a job for, you're on a 0 hours contract, you don't know whether your landlord's going to give you notice, or the political parties are changing all the time, and look at the mess we've got now. People then have a need to feel safe. And what they don't have space for is more emotional noise or clutter. And colour is emotion.
Yeah.
So white is like turning the dial right down, right? But if you go to red, that's like turning the emotional dial right up. All these bright, leery, loud, energetic colours, that takes a lot of emotion noise. So do people want to come home to a house like that when they've just been working in and went on the, not knowing what's happening with their job, when on the news it's just chaos? Do they want to sit in this emotional upheaval? Because really, a lot of the colour can be too loud. So what they do is, the one thing they can control is obviously their interiors and what they wear, and they turn the emotional noise right down. And grey does that.
Okay.
Grey is the colour where people hibernate. Also, it's the colour a lot of people wear it. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be noticed. They just want to go through. I remember I just had a lady recently said, when I do the school run in the morning, she said, I always wear grey because I don't want anyone to see me. Yeah, because she wants to slip in incognito, drop the kids off and be gone. She doesn't want to attract any attention. Whereas if she could wear red or yellow, even if you weren't looking at her, your eye would be attracted because of because of the wavelengths of light, and red advances towards us so quickly that even in the corner of our eyes we would look and we would see the red. But with the grey, we don't.
Okay.
So I think that's one of the reasons why grey was so popular. And then it became a trend, and then everyone wanted it, and then everyone used it. And I knew it was only going to be a matter of time, because it's not sustainable. Because what grey does is, people think it's relaxing. Now, if you're in a certain, there's a certain personality type that different types of greys suit, and we'll talk about that later. But on the whole, for the majority of people, especially here in the UK, if you live in every single room grey, you come in and you think, oh my God, it's calming. What it's actually doing is it's draining, but because you're, had such a busy day and you've probably just rushed in and there's been so much chaos, the mind, the body, everything. The grey you're thinking is calming you, but because it's draining, then it doesn't stop, it just keeps going, and then you get tired.
Okay.
So a lot of people were saying to me, I have grey in the bedroom, I go to bed, it's really relaxing, but I wake up tired. And it's because the grey was just continually tiring them. So they actually didn't even
And
feel
does
like
it
they
make
were
a
asleep.
difference what kind of grey you choose? Like you said, the different personalities, different greys for people. If they choose the right grey for them, will it still have that effect, or is that just a general?
So if I picked with my colour group, if I pick the right grey in that colour group, and I wear a grey, because I have a really warm grey jumper, and I will just wear that on the day that I'm at home, it's cold, I do want to hibernate, I just want to sit and just be just really quiet. But if my whole house was grey, because again, what's to do with the proportion.
Yeah.
So if I then painted the whole house in my right grey, it would at some point start to drain me, because you can use the right colour and the right tone for your personality, but if you use too much or in the wrong context, you can start to feel the negative of it.
Okay.
But most of us do have the wrong greys. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the other blog posts that we did, grey was the ultimate popular blog post for years, it has been, but what I'm seeing on my blog now is the Magnolia post that we did. And that came about because I was living in a Magnolia rental and I wanted advice. It was a bit selfish of me to contact you. I'm going to contact this expert to find out how to decorate my house. But
so you get two for the price of one.
I could not think of a single colour that I could bring into my Magnolia rental that I thought would look nice. I would tried to imagine colours and put colours next to the Magnolia, and I just couldn't think what I could bring in to add some personality into this rental property. So I thought, well, there must be other people like me who are also living in a Magnolia rental. Their landlord perhaps isn't very accommodating, won't let them repaint. How do you work with those colours and bring that colour into your home if it is a Magnolia canvas?
Yeah.
So what's your advice?
Yeah, that is tricky. That is tricky. I mean, if you are the personality where Magnolia fits into that group, then you won't have that problem. But the majority of people in the UK aren't. And if you cannot change the colour of the walls, because it's the developer's favourite, you know, again, it's a lazy colour choice, isn't it? It's a really lazy colour choice, and they'll just go, oh, we'll just put this up. But because it's a yellow, and Magnolia now seems to be any kind of light yellow, but depending on how much yellow is in it, because yellow is the colour of the emotions, and it irritates, and that's what people are feeling, and why people don't like living in this, because it is like living in a whole house of yellow, because there is too much. So therefore, people are having an adverse reaction to it. So I say, like what I mentioned to you on your blog post, was to try and cover as much as possible. So I suggested really big prints. And you went, and you really liked, I know that you really like green, you really like that sort of forest green.
I didn't like it until you told me to try it with Magnolia.
Oh, right.
I've never ever considered green for my home before. It wasn't anything that I particularly wore. I had no real relationship with green, apart from, you know, where I live is very green. So maybe I was getting enough green from living in the countryside. I never thought to bring it into my house. Right. But you mentioned that green would work, so I was like, so I need to go out and buy green stuff then. Let's do this.
I mean, like this plant here. Yeah. So this is a really, so one of these, like, because it's lovely and big, but even if you had that on a massive big print, and you put in big bookshelves, just to try and cover as much of it as possible, because therefore if only just a small amount is showing, the proportion won't seem so overwhelming. So that was but of course it needs to be a proportion that looks good and suits you, because what you don't want to do is create almost a cave and feel like your whole house is, whole room is coming in on you.
We just tried to cover it up a bit. We went out and we bought enormous, massive, because we had like one giant wall that was like the main focal wall when you walked in behind the sofa. So we bought massive giant prints in green and added a rug, and that really, really helped. It straight away, it just diffused some of that.
And also took the focus away. It does, and then it because you don't feel the intensity so much, it doesn't overwhelm you physically. I mean, obviously the most ideal is always to change the paint colour, because even though you put green up on the wall, those two colours still might not have matched, tonally matched, and there might have been a bit of a mismatch. But there's just times that you can't do anything more than that. And thankfully you liked green.
I loved it. And then we moved house, we bought our own flat, and then I was faced with the next challenge, which was, amazing, we have our flat, we can decorate how we want.
Yes.
Oh my God, how do we decorate an entire flat? I don't know how to do this, and luckily I had read that you, in one of the posts or in something that you've done, to decorate each room for how you want to feel in that room.
Yes.
So do you want to talk about that a little bit, like how to choose colours? Like if you are in that situation where you're moving into a new home, you can do what you want. How do you go about choosing how to decorate each room?
Can I say buy the book?
Buy the book, guys, buy the book.
No. So, it's in the book. So I was thinking the easiest way. So the easiest way, I think, to explain this is, if whatever room you're in, how do you want to feel in that room? And if you think, okay, and the typical one is, I want to feel relaxed, I want to feel calm. Now, there are 100 different ways that somebody can feel relaxed or calm, because my relaxed and calm could very well be very different to yours. So what I always say then is, what would you be doing in that room for you to know you were relaxed or calm? So would you be reading a book? Would you have your feet up? Would you be watching the TV? Would you be with your family? Would you be playing? I mean, some people relax and calm is playing games. How is it that how do you know that you would have achieved relax and calm, and how does that look like? What does that look like for you? And that's when I talk about behaviours. How do you want to behave in your space?
Okay.
Because quite often when you speak to someone about creating a space, they talk about, well, what mood you want to create. But you can't see a mood. Like, I can't see what mood you're in.
Mm-hmm.
I can see your behaviours, and then I know what mood you're in.
Okay.
So really, that's just taking it a step further. Then when you know what behaviours you want to create, or how you want to, how you would react and respond, and what your experience would be in the space, then it's to look at what the colours are that would help create that.
Okay.
And I mean, I can't go into all the colours now, but that is, that is in the book about what colours create what kind of sensation, what kind of experience, how you feel. And it's then finding the palette of colours that will give that mix that you want, and the design style. And then you're on your way to creating what it is that you want for each space. Because what you want to be doing in the kitchen, and what your reaction, your responses, what you're doing, it would be very different to the living room, to the bathroom, to the bedroom. So that is how you can start to work out. And it's also what you're doing is you're influencing behaviour. So you're using the colours that you pick, you're influencing how you want to feel when you walk into that space. And that's why when you come home, you create, even the front door, your door is already greeting you in a certain way because of the colour.
Mine says,
when you walk into the hallway, you're already responding or reacting in a certain way. And so that's that's very much the angle that I come from. So I always start from the end. How it is, from the end result, and then I work forward to what the colour and the design style is. Not because if you start at colour, you'll be so overwhelmed. So when I work on people's places, when I do work on stores or even on branding, if I sat there in that meeting and went, oh, okay, so here's the colour palette, I lose everyone. They're gone. I will. You do not get them back, because they are already emotionally hooked, and they're, I like that colour, I don't like that, I don't like that. But if you start at the end, how do you want to feel in the space? What's the atmosphere? What the behaviours?
So you can discount colours straight away, and don't even show them.
Exactly, yes. So when I know that, and I say to them, okay, and I explain it back to them, that's exactly how we want to be behaving in this space. Okay, then here are the colours, or here's a range of colours that will create that response.
Okay.
Then if they turn around and say to me, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, then I can have a conversation to the individual about that, because it's either a personal association they have, so a personal memory, it's a cultural reason, or it is a psychological response they've got to it. But at least I can then start talking about it, and we can have a rational conversation. They go, oh, okay, now I understand why I'm reacting that way. And if we need to tweak something, that's fine, but at least they can rationally think about it. If I just show all the colours, it just ends up being he who shouts the loudest is the one that gets the colour they want. And I'll go, even if I say, that's not going to get you the end result, oh, I don't care, I love that, I want that colour. So I worked out from doing this for years and years, and the responses I was getting, and I was thinking, oh, I've got to do this in a really different way, because this just isn't working. And so that's why I start from the end and work forward.
So having said that, if you're doing that in each individual room, what kind of behaviour do you want to see in that room? How do you ensure the flow through the house? Because after I had decorated our living room and bedroom, I read somewhere that you also need to bear in mind the flow of your house and what colours, how you move through the house and how those colours sort of work together, which I didn't do. how does that work if you're looking at behaviours? Because those, it might not necessarily...
So when they said, did they explain why there needed to be a flow? And what the flow was? Did they explain what that was?
Just so that you don't go from rooms that are so drastically different.
Right.
That they should all have some kind of like thread that ties them.
And what's the thread?
Together.
Yeah, did they explain that? Yeah. See, so some of those things too are design aesthetics. It's a design style. So
yeah.
I've heard ones that you shouldn't have a colour only featured once in a room. You should have it more than once.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a room that only had one orange vase, that's a no-no. You should have two. Like you should have orange appearing somewhere else. But that's a design style. That's a design aesthetic. The same as a design aesthetic where, just trying to think of another one. But the one you said about having colours going through continuously, that is also another design aesthetic. Or just having everything in wood, or having everything having a plant in every room. I mean,
that's not necessarily true from a colour point of view.
No, it's not that. I don't want to say it's not true. It is a design style, and there are designers that have that as their design style, and that is the way they design. But it's not that it can't not be used. You don't have to follow. The reason why I asked you what they mean is because I always want to understand the logic behind it.
Yeah.
What's the rationale? Because it's something I go, okay, now I know why.
Yeah.
It makes
when
sense.
When I read it, I kind of understood that to use colours that aren't maybe too jarring as you pass through, so that they kind of, you wouldn't go from like a red room to maybe, I don't know, a dark blue room to then a yellow room, so that they're all very contrasty, that to try and make sure that there's a more subtle change as you go through.
Well, some people love high intensity colour, and if that's their personality. A lot of the time what happens when it's jarring is because the colours aren't from the same colour family.
Okay.
And so when they're from different colour groups, that can make it feel very, very jarring. But if you have really strong colours and really strong primary colours, and they're the colours that you love, and you can get strong except one of the colour groups, but all the others you can get quite strong colours. The jarring is the emotional change. It's the emotional switch. That's what people can find jarring, because you've just come from a red room that's physically stimulating. Then you've gone into a blue room, and if it's a really strong blue, that's mentally stimulating. Two very different responses. That's what people are finding.
Right.
If you have colours that are all greyed out, but you've gone into a dusty pink room and you've come out into a dusty blue hallway, if we're following this same logic, it is still can be considered jarring. It's just that the only difference is the emotional noise is being turned down.
Right.
So that's why I'm just trying to work out what the logic is.
Yeah. Well, thank you ever so much for coming to speak to me today.
And, my pleasure.
Yeah, we shall share this. We're also going to do a giveaway, aren't we?
Yes.
A giveaway, so check below this video, maybe above, depending where I place it, to see the giveaway, and then you can win your own copy of this. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Excellent. Bye.